What is up, everybody? Tonight we are going, it's a little different. These are the special episodes that I'm doing with Bluon. I have an amazing show for you tonight. You can watch this video after fact, so these ones are not streamed. We do these off air, and then the audio and piece of the video will be put out after the fact. But they're going to be fun, talking about, different stories, different things, mistakes that we've made, some technical things, and all these different things with some of my friends over at Bluon in the tech support, and I think it's going to be absolutely amazing. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. It's going to be so much fun, and I think it's going to be good, fun content. And also, you realize that these are real people. They've been in our shoes. You're going to hear some of these stories, and I guarantee that when we tell some of these stories, that experiences that we've had from being in the field, that each and every one of you out there are gonna have at least one story that's gonna resonate, that you're gonna be like, "Oh, man, I had that shit happen to me." Because I don't care where you are in the country, I don't care how long you've been doing it. If you've been doing it long enough, we've all had those similar experiences. We're all techs, we're all on the grind, and, we're all living in that same world, all right? So I'm gonna something just seemed off with them. Um, and
Go with your instinct.
yeah, and it's crazy these stories that we say because all technicians with any time in the field, it doesn't have to be 20, 25, 30. Guys that have been in for a couple of years, like everybody has these stories, man. You run in, we go into so many people's homes that you just see some crazy people, some crazy things. And it's really wild and really fun to hear some of these stories sometimes. Do you have any more crazy ones you wanted to share? I know I interrupt you, my bad.
No, it's all good, dude. Yeah, I got a few, man. Um, I got called out. This a lady called. She's a landowner, and her son, who so she's very elderly. She's probably in her 90s, and her 60-year-old ish son lived in a single wide trailer. And I had my coworker with me at the time. Well, she goes, "Now I want to warn you. He has been diagnosed with some mental illness." I'm like, "Okay, well, he knows that we're coming, right?" And she goes, "Yes, I have told him that you will be there to fix the furnace. And I also will warn you too that he likes to take things apart because they talk to him." I'm like, "Okay, this is going to be very interesting." And so we get to the house. Now, mind you, this is about 10 degrees outside. Um, when you pull up to a single wide, it's going lengthwise. So you pull up, and there's always that front window. Well, the front window was busted out. We're like, that could be part of the problem. That's a lot of heat loss. And so we go up to the side, knock on the door, no answer. Knock again, no answer. Said, okay. So we called her up, and she's like, "Well, yeah, he's not home right now. Go ahead and go on in." Like, okay. Um, and we also, we live in a very safe area, but we are very strict believers in the Second Amendment, so we always do carry weapons. Concealed,
Nice.
people don't see them. So we go walking in, and trailer houses, the furnace, it's electric furnace. They're always right there in the hallway, right next to a bedroom. Okay, so go to the hallway. There's the furnace, and it's in shambles. I mean, this thing is just tore the fuck apart. And I told my coworker, I said, "You watch that door while I get this thing put back together." So I'm putting it back together, and I happened to glance into that bedroom, and there was just a couch with a blood stain on it. I'm like, "What the hell is going on here?" And there were, uh, uh, what are those called? The uh, Polaroids. There was
Oh,
Polaroids laying around inside that room. And so my coworker decided to walk in there and check the Polaroids. Well, there was pictures of bound women on that couch.
what the hell?
Yeah. Um, and so he goes, Dan. He goes, "We need to get the hell out of here." I'm like, what's going on? He goes, "Check this out." I'm like, "Yeah, we're getting the hell out of here right now." And so I picked up all my tools. We hop in the truck. As we're getting in the truck, he pulls up and starts yelling at us, "What the fuck are you doing at my house?" I'm like, sorry, sir, wrong house. And I just drove off. I was not going to engage. And so he, we called his mom and told her what we had found. And she goes, "Oh, yeah, I should have warned you about that. He has a fetish." We're like, "Yeah, maybe we had to call 911 and have someone look into this." And so the owner's wife, made a anonymous call into 911 about it, and we have never heard from them since. So I don't know what's going on or what happened. But yeah, that was probably one of the most, your neck hairs stand up when you first pull up to the house. You're like, there's gonna be some shit going on here. I don't know what I'm gonna walk into, and that was definitely some shit
I
because
I bet.
yeah, and of course having a technician's attitude of I can fix anything. Yeah, this guy tore it apart, and have the tunnel vision, you can walk in and get yourself some shit. So um, I want to let you guys know, if you have hairs raising up on the back of your neck, uh, trust your instinct. Get the fuck out.
A-
Because that could have been bad.
Amen, man. If something's ever crazy, that's one thing we've done a good job with all our technicians, that I trust their judgment. If they ever go to a job and they call me and say, "Hey, Gil, I can't like we can't go in this one." Um, I don't question them. Obviously, I ask them, what's going on, what's up, but I believe them. Hey, get in your van and get the fuck out of there, because that's crazy, man. Like, what if you were by yourself? What if the guy was in there?
Exactly.
I mean, obviously, she told you the guy was, out there a little bit, but you didn't think he was, a murderer or rapist or whatever the hell he is.
Yeah.
But that could have went bad. And sometimes we
Yeah.
need to see those situations, like you said. If something doesn't seem right, take yourself out of that situation, man, because like we said before, the fact that we go in so many different houses and do so many different things, you get so used to it that you don't look at your surroundings sometimes. I mean, yeah, it's, oh man, there's dog shit or cat shit on the floor. Or this person's a hoarder. Yeah, that stuff sucks, but your safety. Is it safe for me
Hmm.
to be in here? Because that's crazy, man. That's nuts. That's a crazy story.
Yeah, because if he didn't go in there and check those pictures, we would have still been in his house when he walked in, and who knows what would happen from there. And a majority of people with mental illness, they're not violent. They're just, you know, they don't understand surroundings sometimes. And my wife works in the mental health field, and I have a lot of respect for what she does, and I understand people that go through a mental illness, and I feel bad for them. But this guy, I hope that the police did right and then at least investigated into it. We were never asked for questioning, because we want to stay anonymous. Being a small service company in the area, we didn't want to get tangled up in that web, you know. So we don't know whatever happened to it. I do know that 2 years later, uh, she had passed away, and her other son, who is, he's a very successful businessman, he called us and asked if we can go back and service the equipment there because he's selling the place. We're like, sorry, no. Um, we're not going back to that house. And he didn't understand why, what happened. He didn't know. And so obviously he was blind to it because he didn't know what his brother was doing. Um, but we just didn't want to get caught in that web. We're just like, no, we're not going to do it. And next thing is too, when people on our jobs, I talk to a lot of guys on tech support every day, and they're like, yeah, so I found this problem, but I don't know how to tell the customer. He's gonna yell at me. He's gonna do this. He's gonna do that. I'm like, you know how many customers I fired over the years? I fire customers. They don't fire
Amen.
me. I fire them
Amen.
because they are not worth your time. If they're going to bitch and complain because of what happened to their system from neglect, um, I don't have time for you. I will go down and work on a different house and have a very happy customer for life because you didn't take care of your shit. And don't get mad at me for it. I didn't engineer it. I didn't build it. I didn't manufacture it. I didn't install it. I'm telling you what's wrong with it, and you get mad at me for it. Bye. You're
Yeah,
fired.
and I get where especially younger techs get that because people look at them and think because they're young they don't know what they're doing. So one thing I teach a lot of our young techs is I say you've been through the training. When they call me, I'm like, "Are you confident in your diagnosis?" "Yeah, Gil, like, I know from what we've talked about that this is definitely what's wrong." Well, when you talk to the customer, you make sure that confidence comes through. You stay 100% confident in what you do, and you go from there. If that customer starts to cuss at you, then we will fire them. Just like you can't cuss at them, they can't cuss at you.
Mhm.
That's not okay. If that happens, fuck the $99 diagnostic or whatever, get in your van and roll. We'll be okay. Um, I think it's few and far between. And one thing I can say is there's been a few bad eggs that I couldn't deal with that they were just assholes and nothing you were gonna do was gonna de-escalate the situation. But most of them, it's just, having to kind of shut them down, but in a positive way. Like, ma'am, sir, like, hey, I get it. This is frustrating. This is probably not what you want to hear, but hey, I'm not the bad guy. Okay. Something along those lines. And you cussing at me is not going to help me fix your problem and get your heat on or your air conditioning. All right. So we can talk and discuss. And I'm sorry if you're having a bad day, but let's work together and try to, and something along those lines. And most people will like take a deep breath and be like, I'm sorry. Like, it's been a shitty week. I just lost my dad. I just lost my job. You know what I mean? There'll be a stressor that'll make them do that. So, normally, some people are just assholes, though. So they have
Yeah.
no excuse. Um,
A
so
little bit of sympathy and a little bit of empathy go a long way.
yeah,
If there's times I'll just sit there and listen to them, and sure, it's taking up my time. I have other calls I have to roll, but that extra 5-10 minutes, it goes a long way. It makes it a lot easier because if you show them sympathy, if you show them empathy, they're a lot more trusting in you. And and we're all human beings, man. We all have shit going on all the time you
yeah,
know. And I tell the guys too on tech support that call in the summertime. Yeah, I got this customer. He's pissed off. Blah blah blah. And I said, look on the bright side and look at it from their perspective. In the summertime, people are pissed off when their shit's not working because they are hot, they're agitated, they're pissed, they're sweating, it's humid. Now, come wintertime, when you show up to their house, they give you hugs and cookies because yeah, they're cold, but they can turn on a space heater, a fireplace, an oven, throw on some blankets. It's not quite the dire emergency, which actually it's more of an emergency because you got to worry about shit freezing up.
yeah,
But they're actually happier to see you in the wintertime than they are in the summertime because summer is always stressful, no matter what you do for a living. Summer's stressful. Kids are out of school. You're trying to plan vacations. You spend a lot of money. um, I've had people save their money and get themselves a new HVAC system for Christmas, and that's their present to themselves. And so, instead of buying that car that people you see commercials where someone wants to buy you a $60,000 fucking dollar car and put a red bow on it and be like, "Hey, I want you a car. Here's your payment every month," you know, for the next
yeah,
5 years. And so it's that sort of deal where we're getting to that shoulder season now, where you're getting out of the that oppressive heat and getting more into cooler mornings. I don't know about where you are. In my area, we roll no heats in the morning, and we do no cools in the afternoon. Um, it's just that time of year for us. And so, but however, it is nice when you get into wintertime because people are a lot more accepting. I think because it also gets more into the holiday seasons where people, yeah, they're stressed financially, um, but they also feel more grateful. No matter what your religion is, I don't care. Um, but majority of religions celebrate their major holidays in the winter months. So they seem a little bit more grateful when you're around.
yeah. I remember working like Christmas Eve, and I think I made like almost like $700-800 in tips that day because I was just being honest with people. I was like, yeah, I got 4 kids, and I was like, "I'm just trying to, get these calls done so I can get home to make sure I put the, presents under the tree." I said, "But, you gotta do what you gotta do, duty calls." And, I did every call and people were like, "Oh my god, that's so," like, man, like, and what really made me feel good is when people I heard them say, you know, like, you know, they're like, "We're thinking, we wanna hurry up and get this fixed so our kids don't wake up Christmas morning without heat, but on the other token, we didn't think about, you guys having to be away from your families." They were like, "Man," when you just talk and you're honest with them and people would be like, one guy, the biggest one I got, so I ran quite a few calls, but the one guy gave me $300, $300 bills. He was like, "Dude, I appreciate you, man." He's like, "Thank you so much for coming out here." And he was like, "I want you to have a very Merry Christmas. If there's any extra shopping you gotta do for your kids, use this." And when he first put it in, I thought it was like 60 bucks. I thought it was just, like 3 bills. And I was like, "Holy shit." I was like, "You don't have to do that, man. Like, you don't have to do that." And he was like, "No, I want to. Merry Christmas to you and your family." I mean, stuff like that is just like, man, it really makes you like people actually realize what we have to do sometimes when you're leaving your
Mhm.
family, because
Absolutely.
one thing about being in the trades, we've all missed birthdays, holidays, cookouts, parties because you got to do what you got to do. I mean, I've missed baseball games, dance recitals. It is what it is, but I mean, it sucks. I mean, obviously, you always wish you could be there, but that is one of the things that sometimes comes with this trade. But I guess, well, before we move on, did you have another story or?
Oh, I got tons, Gil.
Yeah, I bet
I
that.
do want I do want to touch on one with the Christmas Eve one. It was kind of funny. Um, Similar, I went on a Christmas Eve call. It was probably my ninth service call of the day. It was, of course, after hours, and it was a younger couple. They had two kids. One was like one, and the other one was probably around two, 2.5 or so. And their heat went out on them, and it was a gas furnace, just a Goodman 80%er. Igniter failed, and so, and when they called in, I said, I do want to let you be aware of the overtime fee. It is overtime. They're like, yeah, it's okay. We just want to see what it's got to do to fix it. I said, okay. And so I go out there, just a failed igniter. I mean, a surprise on a Goodman, a bad igniter. And so I said, okay, well, your igniter's bad. Said with the igniter cost of repair and all that. I gave him the total. I'm not going to throw out prices because things are always subject to change. I'm not, we're not here to tell people how much you're going to have to pay. So I gave him the price. He goes, oh man. He goes, I honestly, I can't pay that. And I said, okay. I go, were you kids really good this year? He goes, yeah, they're pretty good. I said, did you? So they don't have any coal in their stocking? He goes, no. And I said, okay, so you're going to freeze, huh? He goes, he kind of looked at me like, you twisted fuck. And I just gave him a smile. And he's like, yeah, I guess so. And I said, no, you're not. I said, I tell you what, let me take care of this igniter for you. I put the igniter in. Um, I handed him the bill and I put no charge on it. Merry Christmas. 2 years later, they called up and they go, yeah, so you were out here 2 years ago on Christmas Eve, and I remember. You remember stuff like that, and I remember.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, hey, how you doing? He goes, well, my wife and I, we got pretty good jobs, and so um, we want to go ahead and replace the system. I'm like, well, let me look at it and just see if it's even worth replacing. And I never charged for quotes. I never did. And so I go out there, and yeah, the Goodman, it was at that time it was around 20ish years old, um, and the condenser was same age. It was all original to the house. And so I said, okay. I go, well, how's your air conditioner been working? He's like, oh, it's been working fine. I said, okay. I go, in your furnace ever since you put the igniter in, working fine? He goes, yeah. And I said, why don't you just get it serviced? He goes, well, you did right by us a couple of years ago. I want to do right by you, and just give me a price, and we'll replace it. I'm like, "Are you can get other bids?" He goes, "No." And I said, "No, you can get other bids. That way you know we're being honest." He goes, "No, I know you're honest." And I said, "Okay." So I gave him a bid. Of course, I'm not going to up the bid whatsoever. I actually gave him a deal, and and that's where that honesty comes into play a lot, and especially when they were in a time of need, they were broke. They were trying to make ends meet. They of course overspent their budget. Who didn't when you're young and you have kids? I mean,
Yeah.
shit. I was always broke around Christmas because that's why I worked the overtime. That
Yeah.
way I could spoil them little bastards, on Christmas Day, even though I may not even be there to see them open the present. I don't care, you know. As long as they're happy and I can spoil them, and when I get home and I get that hug and they go, "Daddy," and they come up to you and they just miss the shit out of you. So I just wanted to, your Christmas Eve story reminded me of that one. So
That's awesome, man. That's an awesome story. Good on you, man. All right, man. I want to thank everybody for listening to this episode. So this is not live. This is a series that I'm doing. It's going to be some Blue On special episodes that we're just talking about different things in the industry where maybe it's different stories that they did, mistakes that they made. Um, and sometimes we're going to talk about little technical things. It may be a static pressure or blower motors or whatever it is, but we're going to keep these little short, fun facts that we can break up for each and every one of you. It's going to be easy to consume. It's really going to get down to the nitty gritty so that you can see how amazing these Bluon, representatives are, these tech support guys and all girls and all these people, so that you guys can see what I see. Because I have met nothing but amazing, truly amazing people over there. So you guys can see it at the same time. We can have some fun. You guys can have a good laugh, learn something in smaller, consumable, little pieces for that. And at the same time, realize what is on the other end of that phone and really truly take advantage of the Blue On app, the tech support, the ordering the parts, the manuals, and all the stuff that Blue On is doing. And I always say this when they say they are upgrading the HVAC, they are literally upgrading the HVAC. It is amazing things that they're offering. And like I always say, I highly, highly recommend that each and every one of you, if you have not, check it out, use it, try it, because I promise you, if you try it and you use it, you're going to find a way that can help you be a better technician and help your day be easier and less stressful, make you more efficient to be able to look good for your boss for some of those tough calls. And guess what? It's going to get you home at the end of the day. So you're back with your family where you should be, which is why we all do what we do. All right. I want to thank each and every one of you for listening to this podcast, watching this podcast. I thank you guys, man. Because of you guys listening and watching this is what's made this podcast grow, what's caused me to win awards. And I'm forever grateful. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope all of you have an amazing week. And we will keep putting out these special episodes that will also be there with the normal episodes. All right. So I'll close this out. Remember to be safe out there. We all have somebody to make it home to. Keep your head on the swivel. Uh, Double check that breaker, make sure it was turned off. I don't care if it's your best friend says, "Oh, go ahead and touch the wires. I turned the breaker off." Double check. It's your life. All right. Driving. Put your phone down. Pay attention to what you're doing. The roads are crazy out there. We all have somebody to make it home to. All right. Do the little things. Make yourself the best that you can possibly be. Me and D Lish talked about that tonight. All right. Keep putting in the work. Sometimes that is calling tech support, learning from somebody who knows more than you. Now you know how to fix that problem. Next time it occurs, you're going to know exactly what to do. They can inform you and you're going to keep learning. So call tech support, call Blue On Tech Support, watch a podcast, listen to a podcast, an online course, whatever it is. Nowadays, saying I don't know is a cop out. I'm sorry. Because with all of the technology and tools at our fingertips, there's no reason that you shouldn't know something you want to know. That plain and simple. All right. With that being said, thank you for listening to this special episode of the HVAC Uncensored podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until next week, I'll talk with you mofos later. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the HVAC Uncensored podcast. Don't forget to check us out on Facebook and Instagram, or email us anytime at hvacuncensored@gmail.com. Now, get back to work. Shut this down. The views and opinions shared on the HVAC Uncensored podcast may not necessarily be the views and opinions of our sponsors or guests.